The Around the NFL podcast is talking to America right now.
And the world from the Chris Wessling podcast studio. It's Around the NFL. I'm Dan Hanzus, Gregg Rosenthal, Marc Sessler. Heroes both are here as well. And it is the week 4 preview proper, draft edition. We previewed primetime and England game on the Wednesday show, including Chief Jets, SNF. There is a report, and thank you to Andrew Siciliano for sending this along to me, that this is from Mark Burns on X. Get-in price for Chiefs Jets jumped 43% from $83 to $119 on the secondary market after it was reported that Taylor Swift would likely attend. Whoa.
I mean, we just had before the show, we don't just roll in here and start the show in 2 minutes. There's a lot of pre-show chatter, and we were debating the whole Taylor Swift thing, which I think probably annoys some of our hardcore football fans, but it is of interest to us.
That's okay, but what does that have to?
I don't know.
You're supposed to.
That was like a big saltine cracker with nothing on it.
Yeah,
like, give me a little
what's your
cheese, a little flavor.
But
What's
what about
your point?
what I just said?
What's your point?
I think it's having because I think it's like it is quietly a massive NFL story because we talked about yesterday that jersey sales for Travis Kelce have blown up, and that means it's people that didn't care about Travis Kelce a week ago. Now they do, and it's bringing like this new fan piece of the pie into the NFL world, and so the NFL loves it.
Here's my prediction. Let's take out like week 1 or whatever. But actually, Sunday Night Football is never week 1.
You can stick
in terms of the first game of the year.
Your butt. How about that?
I think this game, and I don't really need to see that game get too many extra eyeballs on it because it's going to be don't look up.
Yeah.
Going to do the biggest number of the year. It's because all the Swifties are going to tune in.
Yep.
Especially the beginning of the telecast, monster number, and you're going to have Richard Deitch and all the other media people, Marchand, our buddy from the Post.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be talking about that, and that maybe will deflect some of the actual agony connected to the football game. That's a prediction.
How many total
Lock
minutes?
it up. That's my prediction.
How many total minutes of Taylor Swift do you get airtime on the show? It's not, you can't, no one's going to be satisfied, all these people, with 80 seconds of cutaway the entire time. It's going to have to be minutes on minutes.
They're going to have her in a secondary box because it's going to be a 35-point game by third quarter.
Right.
I mean, if there's any two American men who can handle this with like the coolest of ways, it's Mike Tirico and Chris Collins. It's just going to be seamless.
I don't know. She might be a little too mainstream for them. I could picture Tirico and Collinsworth in like CBGBs in '78. Those guys are punks. All right, so
Collinsworth's like a Camper Van Beethoven fan.
I don't get the rep, but
I went deep. You'll go check him out.
I will.
Good band.
Today we're gonna go through all of the Sunday games. Not like I said, non-prime time. We do it draft style. Greg will have the first pick. Which, by the way, is the number 1 pick of the week presented by DraftKings. And this is and it just worked out for old Greggy.
It did.
Oh, Greggy.
The opposite of last year.
Stepping in the poop.
Yep.
Why do they say that? You step in the poop, but it's good luck. Isn't that like a thing?
I would prefer not to.
That's bad luck.
Yeah,
I've never
heard
heard
I think
of
it
that.
means that something good is going to happen to you, or maybe that's when a bird relieves itself on you. It doesn't matter. Greg's a very lucky boy.
Work on your jargon.
So now he will take, with the first overall pick,
the Miami Dolphins heading to the Buffalo Bills.
Hello.
Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. It was pretty easy to take this first overall. I was excited when I realized that the Bills are 2.5-point favorites in this game. The total
what's the over-under on this, baby?
53.5.
Hello.
Which,
should be 153.5.
Carry the one. That's 16.5 less than the Dolphins scored by themselves last week. And I thought about locking this game up for the Bills, getting bold, because I do think this can be a reminder for everyone that Buffalo has, because the Dolphins are the story of the NFL right now, that we're a different Bills team. We've been in a lot of big-time games, and they are different because they're a run-first team. I don't know about, they're going to have a high run percentage, but they do have the highest 2 tight end percentage in the entire NFL. That's now through 3 weeks. Some of these numbers matter more to me. And they're 4th in the NFL in explosive run rate. They've been doing these long, slow drives. It is a very different Bills offense, and it's going against a different Dolphins defense, which has just been meh. They're 21st in DVOA. They haven't been great. But what they do is give up long, slow drives. So I do think offensively the Bills are more prepared this year than they have in past years to slow down an offense like the Dolphins, and we can get to that side of the ball, but they can slow them down partly with these long, slow offensive drives. And I really think I've been impressed by the way Josh Allen's played and the way they've been running the ball.
Yeah, I mean, James Cook, I think rather quietly, second among running backs in yardage to only Christian McCaffrey. Like, he's looked great 3 weeks in a row. That is a new element to their offense. I mean, they had him last year, but it's like you're getting this version of
They're
him.
doing it with a lead, too, which impresses me.
Yeah, I'm with you on the fact that their offense, if you get like and I get a little tired of this, like, which version of Josh Allen will you get? But to be honest, like, he kind of blew the game against the Jets. And it's like, if they get into a situation where Miami's offense is using its speed against a Bills defense that is really stout, even without Von Miller, but not a super fast defense. I mean, I don't know what defense is out there that can deal with Miami's speed. And, like, there are these amazing clips out there that show, you've got Raheem Mostert running right up the center of the field, and like 4 or 5 Broncos players like looking like they're asleep on the grass, like they're napping, like they're snoozing. And it's like, if that's what they do, and they demoralize Denver so quickly, it's a bad defense. This is a different Bills defense that leads the NFL with 9 takeaways. 12 sacks, again, without Von Miller. Leonard Floyd's been really big for them. And there was a question like, can Sean McDermott, head coach, and also call the defense adequately to great? And it's been great so far. So it's at least the Dolphins getting, I think, a real test this time after last week's apocalypse for Denver.
So the Dolphins, week 1, out of their minds. Week 3, out of their minds. The Bills are saying, well, week 2 against the Patriots. They were efficient. They think they had over 400 yards, right, Greggy?
Yeah, and
but
a couple unforced errors and the drives there that the Patriots really weren't the ones that made them stop.
Right, but it's the old Rocky IV thing. The Russian's been cut. He is a man. He bleeds. And it's not like the Dolphins have rolled through all 3 weeks unstoppable. So I think the Bills are looking at that. I think you nailed that, Greg, with your comment that the Bills have to do what they can do, which is control the pace of this game. The defense has to be opportunistic. They just got to slow down this machine because, Miami's playing obviously with a lot of confidence, and you got to get Tua uncomfortable. That has been a big part of this. Tua is just sitting back there, ding dong, ding 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 ding.
How do you do it though? It's so tough when he gets rid of the ball so fast.
Right,
it's
and
tough.
that's part of it. And there are ways to defend that, I would imagine, to kind of clamp down on the receivers. But again, these aren't normal receivers. Is Waddle back this week?
I think
he's practiced.
Back, yeah.
So that's going to be an added challenge. But the Bills, they need to somehow find a way to disrupt the flow of this Miami offense, because we've seen it. We saw it last year. This offense is not impervious. Like, if you knock them off their kilter and get them kind of misaligned, they can struggle for even weeks at a time. And I kind of like the Bills in this spot. I think I respect the Dolphins, what they've done. But I think Buffalo has really course-corrected well here in these last 2 weeks. They're playing very well on both sides of the ball. I love the way Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs are working together right now. And I think this is the Bills' game. I think we're going to take a little wind out of the sails of the Dolphins this week.
I feel like I'm always a little worried when we're all on the same page, or maybe we're not all, but Dan and I are on the same page here. Because this is a different Dolphins offense. I'm really excited to see how their run game moves forward. And to me, that's the biggest change this year from last, is how in sync this running game is. And that's what Mike McDaniel does well. But to me, the one stat that explains more than anything else, if you just want to understand why the Dolphins are who the Dolphins are, is that Tua has the fastest time to throw in the NFL and also has the highest air yards per attempt in the NFL. That's just a math problem that kind of breaks your brain, and it breaks defenses. He throws it the quickest, and he throws it the deepest. And he's going against a defense on paper that is as well set up to stop him as any defense in the NFL, because they've been together for 5 or 6 years. You got Micah Hyde, who's playing great. Poyer, maybe not so much, but they've been together a long time, and they're designed to prevent big plays, and we'll see if that can happen. Right now, Tua in his passing EPA is the highest through 3 weeks since Tom Brady's in 2007, and that's the kind of offense this offense has been so far.
Yeah, it's just like it's absolutely working, and I would point to something. I know we're in a different era than we were back in the day, but Tyreek Hill has 6 150-plus yard games in 20 appearances with the Dolphins. Mark Clayton, Dolphins legend, had 8
Why is
in
Clayton taking a stray
146.
in a big
I
spot?
was not a stray. He had 8 in 146, and that was with Dan Marino. So it's like that was a high-octane offense. It's
Let's
just
put Dan Marino in this offense and see, what would happen.
he had a quick release too. I mean, like
That would be fun.
he avoided a lot of sacks. But it's like you. How do you? I can see what the Bills did to Sam Howell last week, and they've been dominant 2 weeks in a row. But it's like I'm not sure anyone can do it to the Dolphins.
No,
the
I
same
think
way.
they're even then 53 seems low, like as the total. Like for all I'm saying that it's a different Bills offense. He slowed the game down. The defense is better. I still think you got to win like 29-26. It's not going to be something where you keep them down.
Dolphins are 1-11 in Buffalo in their last 12 games. It's like, but last year, even in that in the playoff game with a deep-seated, distant quarterback, not your starter, they gave him a battle. It's
Skylar Thompson almost took him out.
Right. The Bills weren't quite right by the end of last season either. I mean, you had obviously the Hamlin situation. You saw what happened the following week against Cincinnati.
True.
I feel
But
like they're in a good spot here.
It is. It's not a terrible spot, but it's like what the Dolphins did less than a week ago is historic. Like I'm not.
Respect.
I kind of feel
But
like
this ain't the Broncos no more.
it isn't. But come show me that you
Yeah.
can stop this team.
But you guys aren't allowed to watch this at all.
Oh, we.
Just me.
I don't
that's
know.
me
I
and
was
Jim
thinking about
Nance and
that.
Tony
I actually, it's super annoying because I was trying to maneuver that, like, how do I do it? But this damn NFL schedule is driving me nuts this year so far. We have another Sunday where there's only 3 late games.
9 early.
I know 9 early.
So we're getting pelted here where we have to all split those games up. So there's no way to really keep an eye on that game, which is a damn shame. And again, bully to you, Greg. You really stepped in it, which I think means good luck.
Doesn't sound good.
All right, big news. Second overall pick. There's a trade.
What?
First time this season.
I'm always suspicious of these trades when I'm not involved.
Why should you?
I actually was planning to maybe make an offer to you for today.
Wouldn't it
like a
take it?
Godfather
Yeah.
offer. But I was like, you know what? No.
I would have thought about it because there is one intriguing late game.
I know. After I heard what you said before the show, I was like, damn, I should offer 2 number 1s. All right. So anyway, Dan sends the number 2 overall pick today and the number 4 overall pick next week to Marc Sessler, who sends me back today's number 3 overall pick and next week's number 2 pick from Mark. So, yes.
I got a text from Dan about this.
Okay.
I didn't even look at the terms because it's
Mark got no premium whatsoever.
Oh, Mark got a premium. What's your pick, Mark?
I guess I do get to pick this game. That is what a treat. I'm going to go Baltimore at Cleveland.
There's
Okay.
the premium.
Okay, I see.
They're this
You
is
wouldn't
one,
have taken that.
This isn't 1 week.
Me?
No, I don't think he would have.
I absolutely would have
You
taken
would?
it. That's
Okay.
why I traded the pick.
Okay.
All right. Well,
That's all
Because
fair.
there's no high-value number 3 pick for me.
sure.
Like, I
then
didn't-
bully to me. I stepped in whatever it is people are stepping
Okay,
in.
that's fair.
I like this game.
Yeah, I know you do.
Yeah, the Browns
We all
are
know.
in. The Browns are
Well,
in
no,
it.
I kind of like it for the Ravens reasons too. I watched them last week in the Colts game, and I don't know. We're 3 weeks into the season, and I am not totally sold on this Ravens offense. I mean, I think you got flashes of Lamar Jackson reminding you that the fire is still there and burning bright. That there is these moments of excellence.
Well, you heard the Lamar me after week 2. They just go nuts as soon as Lamar has a big week.
Yeah, but I'm not-
he sandwiched those that one big game now with 2 kind of like, meh.
I'm not in the Lamar me.
I'm not saying you are.
No, I'm more suspicious if anything
Week
else.
3
but
was okay.
That was a
Week-
direct
last
shot
week?
right at the bow of Rosenthal.
Yeah, week 1.
I don't know, these
I
like
think
the-
he struggled week 1. Last week there was a lot going on.
I'm
and he was part of it.
I'm seeing this offense making mistakes. Couple games, Lamar Jackson with some terrible fumbles and ball control issues. I think also the way that they crumbled on 3rd and 4th down last week in key situations where it was like, I get it, it's a rookie receiver. I think Zay Flowers has a great future, but there were some bad drops. Mark Andrews has not really gotten, he wasn't active week 1, but he's not really gotten unhooked in this offense at this point. In general, it's just like, do you really trust them to go damage people? They've had a lot of injuries. I think if you want to say why things can change, Ronnie Stanley's practicing. Tyler Linderbaum's practicing. On defense,
they were
Marcus
down
Williams is
6
back.
of 11 starters.
Right,
last
so
week
they've
on
done what they've
offense.
done.
6.
They've done what they've done with injuries. I get
Tough.
that. But this is a different Browns defense. And even Cleveland during milquetoast seasons, they've had at least one game against Baltimore where they kind of You're a division opponent. You know who they are, and they showed they know who the Ravens were. And, this is a different attack, but I think Cleveland, what they're doing right now, and we've talked about it a lot, it's kind of crazy. They've forced 3 and outs on 61.5% of opponent drives. That's obviously the most in the NFL. They've allowed 1 touchdown all season. They basically, last week against Tennessee, what Tennessee accumulated in an entire game, other teams do in 2 or 3 drives. It's like they just find a way to shut them down. And we talked yesterday about just the way that Myles Garrett now has been unleashed by Jim Schwartz because you've got Zadarius Smith and help around him. It's just dangerous. And I really don't know how Baltimore deals with this. It's kind of like the reverse of dealing with Miami's offense. It's like, show me that you can go put it on Cleveland's defense. I don't know if this version of where the Ravens are, maybe it's going to take them a couple more weeks or even a month plus to kind of see what this offense is, but I just don't trust them to go 4 quarters and outmatch the Browns.
I think the Browns should be pleased with the schedule makers. They're catching the Ravens now.
Sure.
And they could be 3-0 in their division. They probably should have won that Steelers game. They didn't, but they could be 2-1 in the division. It's not just that the Ravens are forming and the Browns are coming out like a house on fire. It's the injury situation. Even if you get those 2 offensive linemen back, Bateman's out of practice, OBJ is out of practice. The linemen are coming back and they're not 100%. Dobbins got a concussion, so you actually have 3 new injuries of starters. Not Dobbins, Gus Edwards obviously replacing Dobbins. And the matchup of snaps, this is always on my radar.
Okay.
This is my corner. That Roquan Smith and Clowney and that Ravens team were on the field so long last week. Roquan Smith played 84 snaps last week. Myles Garrett and the Browns barely played. It was like a preseason game. 36 snaps for Myles Garrett. That's more than double that the Ravens defense. And I'm not saying they're going to come out tired. I think the Ravens have a chance in this game. But to me, the Browns are a little more fully formed right now. And I'm a little surprised they're not favored by more. What are they? 2.5-point favorites in this game. That's not a lot of respect for the early season Browns, actually.
Yeah, Baltimore's offense was weird against the Colts. They scored a touchdown on the first drive, and then after that, fumble, punt, punt. They scored a touchdown, field goal, punt, missed field goal, punt, downs. And there was very rarely can you boil, and that was a very even back and forth game against the Colts. And again, shout out to the Colts who are frisky.
With their backup quarterback in there.
3rd and 6 at the Indy 44-yard line, 7:08 to play in overtime. And Lamar has Zay Flowers over the middle, open. I mean, open, and he completes that pass. Ravens win that game. Or
if they call the PI on the next play, which was even worse, wasn't it? Unless
they punted.
I'm mixing up the non-PI call on the 4th down.
Yes, but that's how slim the margin of error is. You need your quarterback to hit that throw because Justin Tucker's not missing once they're inside the 30 there, inside the 40, and so it's not like they had some type of miserable game overall, but the offense, yes, is inconsistent, and that's why I agree that the Browns are playing with so much confidence on defense and the way they're swarming right now, Cleveland, that it's going to show me something, Greggy, if Lamar can get right on Sunday.
Yeah, and this is, to be fair, the best offense the Browns have played. They've played 3 offenses and offensive lines in particular that have been terrible. I mean, the Bengals offense has kind of been a mess to start the season, the Steelers and the Titans. Now, the Browns have made all 3 of those teams look worse by far than they have against any other teams. But those are 3 really struggling offenses. This will be tougher. I'm also curious how the Browns offense looks. You really saw a transition away from the Nick Chubb offense last week. I think it was pretty clear. They're 2nd in the league in empty formations in terms of having no one in the backfield with him and just spread it out. Stefanski came out and he was just throwing it all against the wall. It was like, jet sweeps and trick plays and design runs for Watson and empty and Watson kind of going through and avoiding sacks. It was Watson's best game. It wasn't even a great game, but it was a good enough game.
It's pretty good.
And that's better. That's better. Yeah.
Shook said the same thing, or I watched it. And I'm like, I'm not saying this is Texans Watson, but that was big progress.
He made some nice throws, avoided sacks really well. I think it's partly because he had one of the biggest bloopers since Aaron Brooks.
That was insane.
Just like that was in that game. But you're right. Other than that, he was quite good. So I'm watching that. Like, let's see if that transition continues because there was a lot less under center run game. The run game stunk last week, and it might struggle this week against.
By the way,
Ravens
if
team.
Elijah Moore doesn't happen for the Browns, it won't be for a lack of trying.
Yeah,
They are.
Yeah.
They are. I think one of his frustrations in New York was that they weren't scheming ways to get him the ball. The Browns are relentlessly scheming to get the ball to Elijah Moore. It hasn't really resulted in much yet, but that's something to keep an eye on as they become more of a passing offense going forward. All right. I guess now that comes to me. And, like I said, one of the reasons I wanted to get out of that spot was because I knew Mark wanted that game, and I wasn't in love with a third game. So, but I will let's stay in the NFC East or head to the NFC East.
So you did it for my benefit. I appreciate that.
Well, I know the score here.
What's the score?
he knows also that he didn't love that
I liked
game,
it.
and next week it might help him out. Yeah,
I like that game.
It's good for
but I
everyone.
know somebody really wanted that game.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I appreciate it. I mean, I do, genuinely.
Well, if you would have turned your nose up at the trade offer, I would have had no choice. But
I just
take
wrote,
it.
how long it took me maybe 0.8 second to write sure. I didn't even look at the
I was
terms.
hoping for a little gamesmanship, but there was nothing.
That's not.
I
Mark.
would have given up less.
Mark's the guy you want to
Or
send
more.
offers to in fantasy football.
was just
leagues.
like,
So
yes.
depending on how he feels, it's like it's too much trouble to turn it down.
I think it was within 4 seconds he wrote sure.
It was last.
Let's see. I will, take the Commanders at the Eagles. Like the game, don't love it. Don't actually, after those two games, don't love the slate.
Yeah,
this
it gets
week.
a little bleak.
But I want to see Washington. It was the last game I watched right before it came in today, and listen, it was bad. Sam Howell was forcing things, and they got absolutely creamed. However, I'll say this. I think you alluded to it, Greg, on maybe the Sunday night show. This was a 2-score game in the fourth quarter. It was 16-0, but it was a 2-score game. And beyond that, they were in the red zone twice, the Commanders in this game, like right on the doorstep, and it ended once a turnover on downs near the goal line and once with an interception. So they were knocking on the doors against the Bills, a tough Bills defense, and things went to hell. And after it was 16-0 in the fourth, there was an immediate terrible fumble by Antonio Gibson that led to a touchdown and then a pick six, and it's good night, nurse.
He's got like 5 of those a year. That's been a problem.
Yeah, so as bad as that final score was for the Commanders, I'm willing, especially with a young quarterback, to give him a little bit of a mulligan and say, okay, how are we going to look next week? The only problem here is the next opponent now is the Eagles. So it's going to be a real measuring stick. Like we talked about on Monday, I think it's been overblown. Philadelphia's offensive struggles early on. They've got tons of yardage still. DeAndre Swift looks like the comeback player of the year. I would imagine he's eligible for that ridiculous award. And just wait until Jalen Hurts gets locked in with the passing game. Big test for Young and Sweaty and Daron Payne and everybody on that line to cause havoc.
So Howell, who's been sacked a league high 19 times, a lot of those are on him. It's like that. That's sort of his growth process here. I just see a team that, like, you're right. Like the Bills didn't just walk away from that game like immediately, but Washington just sort of handed it away, and like Philadelphia can just take advantage of that. I think that Philadelphia, like, I'm with you. I think that you saw A.J. Brown heat up a little bit last week, and I just expect that Hurts is going to, whatever little kind of slow start to the season, he'll work his way out of this. But they are a team that, like, systematically is ripping off, like, 13-plus play drives. Like, I think they lead the league in those, or the tie with the Rams for that at this point. And
Your kind of drives.
Yeah, I love that because I think it kind of, like, something's not totally working at its maximum. They just found another way to run. And, like, Washington last week, one of the reasons I like the Bills is because of their ground game, and what they did last week was 168 yards on the ground, and Philadelphia is like 450-plus in the last 2 weeks. And we talked about Swift, but it's like I just don't see what the weakness is on Philadelphia that a Washington strength can take advantage of. I think it's sort of they're a bit sitting ducks in this one.
I wonder if the Eagles' secondary depth has been properly tested. They've had multiple injuries in terms of their slot cornerback, this at safety, maybe the linebackers. I do think Washington's deep in terms of their passing attack. Are they ready to take advantage? I don't know. 8 points seems too much for me. I like me some Commanders to either win this game or to keep it close in a bounce-back game. Because I do think this is the best defense Philly has faced. I think schedule is so important. I believe early in the season that you got to look at who these teams have played. And I think Washington, they were up for the fight last week. I think they'll be up for the fight every week. And I think they'll make them compete. And I do think, okay, this is a division game where these coaches have played against each other, and the Washingtons consistently created some issues for Philadelphia. They beat them last year in that game where they just held the ball forever. It was Philly's first loss of the year. It's a division game, and the offensive line for Philly, it's far from an issue, but it hasn't been as good protecting the pass this year as previous years. Like, it's been good instead of excellent, and Hurts has been good instead of excellent. So is this a defense that could actually give him some trouble? I'm convincing myself yes, and that'll be close.
I would just say one thing that's different from that Monday night game a year ago where the Washington had the ball for so much. The Eagles have had the ball for 80 minutes over the last two games.
That's true.
And we talk about snap count and who's rested and who isn't. Like, the Eagles' defense has really not had to be on the field much.
And they're quietly better. That's one thing I think Eagles fans have got to feel better. I actually think the Eagles' defense might be better this season so far.
Jalen Carter leads the Eagles, we talked about on Wednesday, with 15 QB pressures. Hassan Reddick and Brandon Graham neither have a sack yet and just one QB hit each. But, listen, they have so much talent and they have so much ability, and the offense is keeping the defense off the field that these guys are just warming up. I would not be worried at all about that either. And I think maybe A.J. Brown's going to finally get you a touchdown here in a big spot.
I mean, I'm not going to complain. Last week he went, 8 for 130 or something?
Right.
I see you, A.J. I believe in
Clanking that one off the
I believe
shoulder
you.
pad.
I believe in you. I wish I took Devontae Adams or Stephon Diggs. I kind of do. Just got a little too much with my heart there.
I like the Eagles in the
my
game.
Geno lock.
I like the Eagles here to keep rolling. But
to cover?
Well,
it's 8.
8's a lot.
8's a lot of points. It's a lot of wood.
It may not be a lot, though. Sometimes you get
at Philly. Philly, especially with Jalen Hurts, who's essentially unbeatable in the regular season here. They turn into a bit of a runaway train at home. So yes, I think they're gonna take that wood.
I'm with you.
They're gonna chop it up, throw it in the old furnace. Is that how it works? Maybe.
Yeah, you could do that.
Sure.
If you had that kind of oven.
All right, should we keep going? Should we roll? Another game? Another game. Up next, Mark, it's back to you. Unconventional this week because of the huge trade in the first round.
I think you've tricked me into having like 6 games on Sunday.
I don't think so. I think we have the same.
You have the same amount of picks.
Yeah, everything else is the same.
All right. Well, I told you pre-show what I really
He's
wanted.
He's spinning out.
No, I'm not. I love this, actually. I am going to take my late game. If you're new to the show, we have to, you got to kind of be strategic about how you organize your day. Arizona at San Francisco. I think in week 1, I would have been like, this will be a nice, easy, just a wipeout. I think this is disrespectful, and tell me if you think I'm wrong. Arizona is getting 14 points in this.
I'm totally cool with that.
Oh, so I guess like you have to come from the world of like, I look at that Cowboys game and it's kind of like an aberration from the norm. I look at Arizona that has fought every team they played this season, and that.
It's also looking at San Francisco and saying that's the best team in the NFL.
I think San Francisco, like, it's not totally wild to me. It's just that like it's a little disrespectful to a team that just wiped out a Dallas team we're calling a Super Bowl contender, and I think they are. And it's just like, this is a well-coached Cardinals team, and if you went into the year thinking like the tank thing is on whether or not the players and coaches want it to be because Josh Dobbs just simply cannot compete, he's 4th in the league in completion percentage. He's making plays. I mean, he uses his feet, too. James Conner is running as well as I've ever seen him run. Their defense is disrupting people. It made the Cowboys look a little foolish at points last week. Can you do that to San Francisco? I don't think so. Brock Purdy, really, I think one thing that you can talk about with the Kyle Shanahan offense is they've had 30-plus points in 7 of his 8 starts. He's had open targets on 65.4% of his downfield throws. By far the highest percentage among quarterbacks with 50-plus downfield throws since last season. So it's like, this is the Shanahan offense. It works. Deebo Samuel's a little banged up. That concerns me to some degree, except they have so many different weapons that this will be Arizona's real test. Does the floor fall out here? I would just say I think no, because I think that what they've done over 3 weeks has shown an ability, especially on defense, to hang around. They've hung around, and like what they did to Dallas a week ago was not an aberration. I think it was a sign of what they are under Jonathan Gannon, who was an off-season like everyone's snickering at Jonathan Gannon for some of the clips that came out about him and the way he kind of spoke to the team.
Yes,
That
we are that someone.
Yeah.
So
well,
you
I
don't
mean,
need to
I guess we
it
also
on someone
did that.
else.
We did that to Sirianni in Philadelphia, and then we kind of learned from that a little bit. But it's like,
No, I didn't learn anything.
I mean, it's okay to have some
We're just having fun.
We were just, I wasn't taking it so seriously that like this man is doomed forever.
no, but it's like it's another example of like some of this like the way they speak to the team is.
By the way, just for context,
It's
so people
also
that don't know
meaningless.
the origin of that drop, that was the new head coach of the Cardinals going up to a wide receiver for the first time, introducing himself and explaining all the different routes he's going to run.
Right.
Marquise Brown, I
and these were the
believe.
sounds he was making.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
that's funny.
it's a little strange, but
As my children would say, a little sus.
it's a little sus. But he's done it good. Would you say would you give him at least a B plus if Dave
Oh,
better
for
as a
sure.
coach? He's
I
done great.
give him an
Mark,
A. I
you
give
know
him an
what?
A.
I get this is so up Sessler.
They are the
alley.
team of
What?
Sestiel right now.
Yeah, I mean, you like the team that sucks that then kind of has a little heart, and that's cool.
I think most sports fans would be attracted
sure,
to
but
that.
you especially, and if it's a small sample size, you tend to maybe get carried away a little bit sometimes.
Well, all right. Like putting it on the Cowboys is not just this thing that is of zero importance.
No, they've been consistent. They're 10.
Not roughing the Sessler. I'm just saying this
You're
is
not.
the perfect.
You're not. You're right.
It's
you're,
a perfect Sessler storm.
You are
here.
correct. But can I counter and say that like a Danism is to kind of dismiss what they did to the Cowboys because you believe in the Cowboys.
Yes, because I agree. Like, for instance, I think it is absolutely commendable the way Arizona has been in every game, despite the fact that everyone said they were going to get blown out every week and maybe not win the season. So that's definitely flowers. I do also think these things happen in a season. I think Dallas was flat on the road 3 days after one of their key players blew out his knee in practice. And I think they caught Dallas a little flat-footed and, to their credit, took advantage of it. I just think now going to San Francisco is a whole other situation. A
Who
healthy
has extra rest. Too.
Niners team. Brandon Ayuk, I imagine, is potentially back in the lineup here. And I just think it's a great story. If Arizona battles for 4 quarters against the Niners, I think they're a pretty big story in the NFC.
If they ever nip the Niners, and I realize that is like
Beat them outright.
If that's from, I said nipped. If that was from outer space, I get that the concept of that. They are one of the most shocking NFL stories we've ever covered.
Well, I think the thing about Arizona is everyone just has to recognize how foolish so much of what we accept as wisdom going into a season is. Because just based on football, they're pretty good this year. They're actually 10th in DVOA. They've been quite competitive every single week. I don't think that's going to last totally because of their talent, but I think good coaching could get them to be feisty all year, and they could win 5 or 6 games or whatever it turns out being. Like at this point, literally everyone was completely wrong. We spent half the offseason just saying like this team is a total abomination. They're not. They're competitive on defense. They're a pack of roaming dogs sometimes. I mean, they were pretty creative. They spooked Dak last week. There's some formations there where like, what is happening? It's just like 7 guys kind of like walking around. I'm making weird movements. Kaiser White, my guy, I've always liked Kaiser White, had like the game of his life last week. It wasn't just the interception. Like they're getting guys to play well, but this is a totally different animal. I'm with you. 14.
The Cowboys win was really impressive.
I think they'll be able to.
I don't know how good the Commanders or the Giants are at this point, but I just need to see a little bit more before I get like swept up in this.
Here's
That's
the
all.
thing.
And you're right, Mark. That's kind of my thing, but I hate the beginning of an NFL season where it's the 3-game sample size and we get fired up about it, and then by week 6 it's completely on its ear, and sometimes not. This one to me smells Niners, Bengals, Rams next 3 weeks. Do I see a win? And I don't necessarily, and they'll be 1-5, but call me a hater. I'm just not
I
there
think
yet.
last week maybe told us as much about the Cowboys as it did about the Cardinals.
I mean, I think the Cardinals are showing though that they can compete with the middle of the NFL. So I think they'll have a chance with the Bengals.
I agree with that.
And then, but the middle of the NFL probably can't compete with the 49ers most week. I liked how Kittle looked better last week. I just haven't seen a lot of explosive Kittle in a while. It's been a quieter story. Still great guy.
That's why he left the Superstar Club to great criticism from outside sources outside this building.
Really played well.
And you might have been prescient.
And their front line, look, the Cardinals' offensive line has been a huge part of their success this year. They're playing well up front, and this will be a much tougher test. against a 49ers team that looks better up front. They weren't getting any interior pressure last year. This year, Hargrave is balling out. Nice signing. Kinlaw's look better, and Armstead is healthy. Last year, you didn't have any of those three guys essentially at 100% or playing well, and suddenly you have three, and that's a lot to deal with.
All right. I'm up.
Gets a little rugged at this point.
I'm gonna give Greg a pass here. Because I would
just take it, because now because of the way the thing works, I'm gonna have an extra game. I don't care anymore. Because the late games I'm gonna be watching double.
No, I don't want to watch Mac Jones. Forget about that.
Oh,
that's a struggle. A visual struggle.
How dare you?
All right. How about the team of Zeus TL, the Indianapolis Colts? Let's grab them against the Rams at home. I hope we get Anthony Richardson back in this game.
He did practice. It sounds like it's possible. Do you think he's? Well, I know you like him, but you think he's going to give them a better chance than Gardner Minshew?
I don't think Minshew played very well last week, actually. And I like Minshew as a backup. Mm-hmm. I wish he was my team's backup. But I don't think there shouldn't be any conversation about who should be this quarterback. I think Richardson's proven in the time he's been on the field that he's already going to be a difference maker. He's just got to protect himself better and get a little luckier. I've seen a lot of stuff around Richardson saying, and of course it started in week 1 when Trevor Lawrence said to him after the game, "Hey, you got to protect yourself." That's why this is a hard sport. We're watching this right now, by the way, on free TV and YouTube. That hit he takes where he suffers a concussion, it's he was trying to protect himself and he gets pushed right at the goal line as he's scoring a touchdown. Tell me how to protect yourself
Easy
on that. He was basically that was a borderline late hit that led to his injury. So I want to see Richardson play because he really has been as good as advertised. And he's a dynamic player, and the Colts in general, that performance against Baltimore, one of the great kicker performances that we've seen, really. You could say it's a bit with Dan and kickers. No, I love kickers, especially clutch kickers. And what Matt Gay did in that game was outrageous with 4. He hit from 53, 53, 53, and 54. And I'm trying to remember who called the game. He had a nice little call at the end. He mentioned the makes and said, and he piped every single one.
That was Jay Feely because he was going wild.
Oh, it was Feely?
It was a Jay Feely.
Dan annoyed that he gave Feely pop. Hey,
is Feely the same guy that posed for the prom picture with his daughter in the date while holding a gun? Is that the same?
That is him, yes.
Same.
I didn't track that, but
one and the same. Yeah. Anyway, he piped every single one. Anyway, so this team I thought has been very fun to watch, and the Rams. I think this is another competitive game. I think Los Angeles is going to hang in a lot of these games.
One thing I really love about what the Colts have done, because yes, they're really well coached. Just like it's the other coordinator that came from Philadelphia, Steichen. You can see his fingerprints all over it. But part of it is pieces that were there a year ago. DeForest Buckner and that defensive line have caused problems in every one of these games. They did it to the Ravens. And last week, the Rams, Lou Anarumo's Bengals defense kept them for 1 of 11 on 3rd down, gave Matt Stafford all sorts of problems. And I think this is a matchup I don't like for the Rams in terms of their offensive line versus a Colts defensive line that has wreaked a lot of havoc.
It's a great point, Mark.
It's a great point, Mark.
The Colts defense has been really impressive.
Roberts, we need it. We got to dig it up and we got to play it.
That's a great point, Mark. You're right. The Colts defense has gotten after.
Point, Mark.
Who was it? Nobody knows.
Who was that talking?
Yeah.
It's Jeremiah.
No, it's not.
Well, that's a great point, Mark.
I don't think it is.
It's Tony Grossi, the Browns reporter. It's
when
he came on and visited
I've always thought that was
Browns.
Jeremiah.
I do like,
and
Mark has a detailed catalog of all the
compliments
he's ever gotten.
No, but I grew up reading Tony Grossi when I was in middle school.
That's a good
so that
one.
kind of, of course I know who it is.
For some reason, I always thought it was DJ, and it was almost like it was
DJ's
hard
never said that
it was hard to pull the words out of him. He didn't want to give you the compliment. And he's just slowly saying
Tony Grossi might have known what he was doing there in that situation.
Wait, what are we talking about again?
I think I made a great point, Greg, about the Colts' defensive front.
They have gotten after
they
people.
Really get after
Ebicom has had some nice moments. Grover Stewart, certainly. You got Buckner, and that's the weakness of the Rams. But then you think of, on the outside, these little receivers going down the field. Can they win against some big Colts cornerbacks? You know who impressed me last week was Juju Brents. Can't say I was too familiar with him as a draft prospect. He was one of those guys that if you're really into speed score and raw athleticism score, was maybe the most athletic cornerback in the draft.
I was at his pro day. He was performing.
Just like one of those guys who just like tested out of the gym, but didn't really play that well at football. And kind of like Tariq Woolen was a year ago. And this was his first game a week ago because he was injured the first 2 weeks. And he balled out against Baltimore. And he's a big guy. They have some big cornerbacks in Indianapolis. So I'm interested in that matchup. This is a fun little matchup.
Good job by Vegas. The Desert has this one right. They got Colts by 1.5.
That's actually some respect for the Rams there.
It is.
You know, they're saying on a neutral field the Rams would be
How about the Colts
better.
favorites in Week 4 after the misery of last season and the way people were talking about the team having so many issues?
I'm with you. I think one thing that, like, you thought, oh, without Jonathan Taylor, they're sitting ducks with a rookie quarterback. Like, it's like Zach Moss, who, like, has been underwhelming career-wise, like,
Yes.
is currently, and I'm not making a comparison, but he's outperforming what a banged-up Jonathan Taylor was at this point a year ago. Like, I would just say that, you know, he had 122 yards last week, and, like, he looked good. It's like, I mean, that's not a total weakness for them where we thought it would be.
That's Steichen. That's a sign that your coach is. I always say you need a coach that brings something to the table.
I'm all
The
in on
fact
Steichen.
that you can see Zach Moss going for 100+, that you have to put that on the coaching staff. The offensive line, the run game, it's impressive.
The line's been a lot better. Like that.
Yep.
I'd be going crazy, though, as a Colts fan, because you're really happy with the start of the season overall, other than the Richardson health stuff. And there are reports out there that Jonathan Taylor's ankle, is fully healthy. There's also a report from Dan Graziano that he's eligible to come off the PUP after this Sunday. Quote, still doesn't want to play for the Colts. So it seems like this is heading toward a divorce. You know what? The Eagles are probably going to get him for a 6th-round pick or something. And then it's just going to be like, you know, I would love to see this team that is in kind of a bounce-back place with an exciting young quarterback, give him a dynamic running back, because forget about 2022 Jonathan Taylor. 2021 Jonathan Taylor was one of the great running back years of the last decade plus. Like, if you could get that guy to this offense, this team starts to get legitimately frisky and maybe even spicy.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's going to happen based on the reports, unless there's some type of come-to-Jesus conversation between Irsay and Taylor. And, by the way, if anybody remembers the last conversation they had, it couldn't have gone worse. So
No, I could see him on the Cowboys, but I'd say it's just another kind of credit to Shane Steichen that what's happened over the last couple of weeks has us forgetting all that drama from just a month ago. An organization that seemed to want to shoot itself in the foot endlessly.
It's a fun game because it's a swing game, I think, for both teams. Like, who's going to be the feisty team? Because the Rams have the Eagles next week, but they get their star back, and he actually wants to play for the Rams. Cooper Kupp is supposedly going to be ready to return for Week 5. But if they fall to 1-3, then you start maybe hearing whispers about trade stuff, and you got the Eagles next week. Like, trade deadline starts getting pretty soon. But if they can win a couple of these games that they have a chance.
I want to see healthy Matt Stafford with healthy Cooper Kupp with Puka Nacua. I mean, that's going to be –
let's fly.
That's going to be nice. You fantasy owners out
we've
there?
also not given – we maybe haven't given Sean McVay enough credit for what the Rams are right now.
Yeah, they're watchable and competitive. All right, let's take a break, and then we will continue on. All right, welcome back. I mentioned, you remember I debuted a new seg on Wednesday's show.
Media Minute, was it? Or what?
I don't know. I like that, actually. It's good branding.
Something along those lines.
I did. Speaking of branding, I noticed Kyle Brand has a new venture, a new podcast. It's being advertised during our show. It's a 10-minute podcast with Kyle. Sounds great.
Sounds very great.
Kyle's going to kill it, I'm sure. In his pitch of the podcast, in the commercial, he says, doesn't everybody hate when you go to click into a podcast and the podcast is an hour and 27 minutes long? And it's like, that's like most of our podcasts. So there's now
couched inside our hour.
So now there's a commercial from our own media group during our show saying, don't you hate when podcasts are like the show you're listening to? Just throwing that out there.
Just insurrection.
Is this another media minute? Give it to me. Another media minute with Dan Hanzus. Put Roberts on the spot. Love putting Roberts on the spot. Yeah, like what I was just saying.
Yeah, like you already did the minute, but like just retroactively.
You did.
Listen,
yeah.
Brand's gonna do great. Kyle is excellent.
He also was the one that said he didn't like getting asked for guests on other podcasts. Yeah. He's coming after us. Hey, those hour and 27 minutes, they're going to pay for my kids to go to college. Crank it up.
The eyebrow would go a tilt if we start seeing a bunch of guests on Kyle's new podcast.
Yeah.
If it's just a Kyle solo 10-minute joint, which, by the way, sounds like a pretty good gig. But he has like 14 other jobs.
You'd have to go on for like 48 seconds as a guest. That sounds doable to me.
Or if his next ad is like, don't you hate it when it's just like 3 guys, but they don't really totally focus on football, and one of them can't decide whether they really like the Browns or not. Like, hey.
Is there anything worse than 3 middle-aged whites from Los Angeles who never played the game?
Well, 2 of you didn't. But, like, yeah.
Oh, right.
Who needs a touch of mirth?
Let's go to the next pick in the draft.
No, let's not, because I want to also share something.
Okay.
Does this have a music underlay?
Well, it's connected to last show's music underlay, the
Okay.
Media Minute last episode. I mentioned that I really wanted to play Terry Bradshaw, not being able to place Desmond Ritter's name, and Fox threw up the stop sign on it.
Yeah.
But they don't realize there's a workaround. Fans of the Hard Knocks podcast know that we cannot use Liev Schreiber's voice on that program, the narrator of Hard Knocks, but we do have a workaround in the form of Jason Zumwalt.
Oh, yes.
Our sound guy, our voiceover artist,
Yep.
artiste, the new voice of God, and you, umlaut over the U. So I asked Jason to listen to the Terry Ritter issue on Sunday's Fox pregame show and give us a reenactment, which Fox cannot stop. They have no legal recourse but to let us do this right now. So eat it, Murdoch.
Old school football smash mouth, 40-time rushes last week against the Packers. They win that football game. I like what they're doing. I like their quarterback out of Cincinnati. What's his name? Ritter. I will learn his name when he gets good, okay?
That's not like a script. That was actually what Terry Bradshaw said on Fox.
That was better than Terry Bradshaw.
I love that. He nailed it.
Did you know that Terry also had takes about the T Swift-Kelsey romance?
No.
Well, he didn't. But if he did, this is what it would sound like.
And I did. I saw old Travis Kelce with his gal friend up in the suite with his mama. Who is she? A Lardashian or a Hilton sister? Anyway, I wish the best to them and all their future children. Going to be a tall litter because both of them got some height from what I can tell. Where am I? Is this a airport or a TV studio?
Oh, my God.
Couldn't stop us, Fox. Not if you tried. Thank you, fake Terry Bradshaw. All right, let's get back to the draft. Greg, you're doubling up here.
I am excited that Patriots Cowboys with Burkhardt and Greg Olsen and Aaron Andrews and Tom Rinaldi is available. 7-point favorites, the Dallas Cowboys.
Tom is a very serious man. That Rinaldi, you could tell some people are just very serious men.
Yeah, well, then they throw him in these sort of stilted ads where they try to turn him into a funny man, but that's not who he is.
We got an idea. Let's have Tom play against type.
I'm really intrigued to see this game because I think the Patriots have shown parts of their team that are promising depending on the week. They haven't put it all together yet, but they're playing a Cowboys team that really needs to improve after last week, and I think maybe has a little bit of concern about this old Texas Coast offense that we were so excited about a week ago, or at least Dak Prescott's place in it. When I went to go rewatch that game, I really wanted to see what was up with Dak, because he's the ultimate guy that's better on film, on the All-22, than he is on the TV copy. Like, you see it, and you can kind of like go, oh, he's a quarterback's quarterback. He's making great decisions. You kind of see what he's seeing. You know, he's always been a very poor man's Brady or Manning type, where he's winning from the neck up and seeing the field. And last week, Gannon put it to him, and there were many plays in that game where he was double clutching. And I wanted to go rewatch those double clutch plays and see what he's seeing. And guys seemed like they were open, and Dak seemed kind of spooked. And then he just started making some crazy decisions, like the interception you talked about at the end, of just like, what are you possibly seeing there? And I think Gannon scrambled him with some of the defensive game planning. Fast forward to this week, and you're playing a Belichick team who's had decent success against Dak in the past. Not like they've played that much, but slowed him down when he's been playing better. And I think this is a tough defense to go against if you start seeing ghosts, because they are able to change who they are on a week-to-week basis. They really are great at that. They did it last week by putting all their big fatties up front to stop the Jets' run game and dare Zach Wilson to beat him.
Fatties?
You know, they got a little bit of everyone, and I'm just saying
So
they got the
mean.
310-pounders.
You could call them hogs.
Yeah.
But
This
big
week-
fatties is a
Okay,
little.
that was rude.
You
beyond the
can't
pale.
think it's a body shaming.
This week, they got their 3 safeties. Hopefully, they get some cornerbacks back. I mean, they're not getting Jack Jones back from suspension yet. Marcus Jones is out, but maybe you get Jonathan Jones. You got all these safeties. Jabril Peppers playing well. Can you scramble Dak up? I'm optimistic.
Well, the seeing ghosts is the famous Sam Darnold line from Monday Night Football a few years back against the Patriots, and that's, yes, what they specialize in. And Dak isn't trusting what he's seeing with his eyes and getting confused by the coverage. And, yeah, you got me spooked if I'm a Cowboys fan.
it's just one game. Just
Right.
one game, but it was something.
But, yeah, you're going to want to give him a game script that puts him in some good passing situations where Belichick isn't able to really go to work and go to town on you.
It's one of these games where it's like you're definitely checking to see who's returning for Dallas, because, I think last week was impacted by your offensive line injuries. Mike McCarthy said on Thursday today that Tyron Smith still in the rehab group, Zach Martin, Tyler Biadasz doing a little bit more. I mean,
That's good.
that matters a lot,
That's
because
good.
I don't love the idea of like Christian Barmore and Matthew Judon against a banged up Cowboys line. The Patriots last week against the Jets, I know the Jets offensive line is a slight disaster at the moment, but 61.5% pressure rate, their highest for New England since 2018. So they're clicking, and if you get a Dallas banged up offensive line, I don't love that, because the Patriots to me are a snooze fest on offense. They allowed 10 yards passing on defense last week. Again, I know it's the Jets, but it's like that just doesn't happen in NFL games in general. 39 yards in total. So this is Patriots defense can hang with anyone. We saw it against the Dolphins.
Yeah, 2 above the treetops takes on this one. First of all, if the Cowboys are what I still think they are, which is a BTT, big-time team, this is when you, at home, after an embarrassing kind of loss where you play like dog poop, and it's like if your head coach and your DC and everybody are good at what they do,
They'll be ready
they have
to
you
play.
coached up and pissed off, and you go and you kill a middling team. The Patriots are like the textbook definition to me of a 8-9, maybe if the ball bounces right, 9-8 team. I just don't see a lot with this offense to be able to make a big play against the Cowboys and to sustain drives throughout the afternoon. I know they did it pretty well against the Jets, but even then, I mean, what was it? They hit one big play. I would love to see what like their yards per play was if you take out the coverage bust on the tight end touchdown. So I think New England is a very mediocre offense, and I think the Cowboys are going to run away with this one. I think this is
Wow.
what is the spread on this one?
It is 7.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to get angry and win by 14 to 17
It's
points.
a generous spread.
Well, I not only disagree.
Is it gonna?
I disagree to the point that I think they're going to leave a little bit of that roof open on Sunday. That Mac Jones who played pretty well under pressure, that the defense can keep it close, and that it's going to be a lower scoring game than you think, and that these Dallas linebackers looked a little shaky, and suddenly you're not as deep at cornerback without Trayvon Diggs, and then this is going to be back and forth. Patriots might win this game straight up, but it's definitely going to be raining in Dallas. The Rainmakers coming out for the first time this year. Let's go.
Oh,
Come
wow.
Covering that 7 points.
I love
Covering
it.
that 7 points.
This game just got a lot more interesting to me. Make sure, Mark, because you know this one over here.
Yeah.
If he does get this right, he will be honking.
Right.
Sometimes when the Rainmaker, when it's dry,
Right.
he doesn't mention it.
When people have put their
If we don't
hard-earned
mention
money
it-
on Greg's
Well, I'm
Rainmaker
not
If we don't
section,
catch it,
I'm not
he'll let a loss
suggesting
go under
anything.
the.
I'll
go
make
under.
a note to myself.
And that's producer work too.
Yeah.
We got to hold Greg accountable on
This
the
is
Rainmaker
people's
here.
real money.
Yeah,
Greg.
and if you look at the record from last year, it was something like 7-3 or 6.
Yeah, but what about
it
those
was great.
three, Greg?
We don't know. We
Well,
don't know
that,
that's
you got to look over the whole
You don't
breadth
know
of the
that
season.
the same people are getting behind all of your picks. What
Right.
about the person that got behind those 3 picks?
That's on them.
true. They live on the street now.
That's on them.
You sound like Jordan Belfort.
Wouldn't shock me if they win straight up, but I'll take the 7.
I thought you were going to lock the Patriots, which would have been
Well, I already did lock the Seahawks,
I know,
so
you can make a change.
I'm doing the classic. I'm locking up Geno and taking the Patriots in the Rainmaker. This is maybe
Playing
not
the hits.
the recipe. Not the recipe for unemotion. Little picks. I'm making a surprising.
It's good to
choice.
have Greg back, by the way. Yesterday, I don't know what. He said he didn't like talking anymore.
No, he heated up those.
I was
episode
fine.
went along.
He's all the way back.
Hey, once the camera's on, it's like
Well, the
that's
camera
the
was
real
on.
me.
That was
was.
sort of the issue.
Well,
Oh, what about the book? What about the
Oh yeah,
Englishman book?
Yeah.
Did we?
Ben Isaac's book about.
No, Greg, you promised to find
British
the quote
football.
about us
You
inside
promised
this
us.
book.
I brought it home with me.
Oh,
I took it out of my backpack.
oh, Greg.
My bag.
And
I haven't gone past that yet.
but I mean, what?
All right. My next pick is Dolphin. No, rather, I already took the Dolphins. The Broncos and the Bears. And these are two winless teams. But I have a strategy. When I have a great game like Dolphins-Bills, I kind of want one that can get a little less attention as my second game, and that's Broncos-Bears.
What do we call a matchup of two 0-3 teams? What do we have for that one?
Well, I don't have a great name for that. I don't. It's not.
Two 0-2 is a
Unattractive.
double wounded dog game or
Yeah.
a double cornered animal. This is a.
I think one of
I
these
don't know.
animals died a week ago.
We got to work on that.
It's a tough scene for whoever loses.
Oh, this is a
game.
loser goes home.
Okay.
Whoever loses this one, it's.
I
you know,
mean,
Yeah.
0-4, take a walk. Like,
I
there's
think,
no
Bears-
coming back.
I think it's
I-
probably you're cooked and on for either
Yes.
team.
I
but
think the
yes.
But
Bears
the loser
are
goes home. They're the
Bears
first
are
one to
home.
go home this year.
I'd like them to be
Okay.
eliminated from the season. We don't have
Okay.
to deal with them again.
I
Right.
feel like the Bears are home. Matt Eberflus. Remember they signed those linebackers? Everyone was all fired up. Tremaine Edmonds and
Pinch me.
T.J. Edwards, the first day of training camp or first day of free agency for like $30 million guaranteed. Edmonds is struggling, and his replacement in Buffalo playing very well. Terrell Bernard. And Jaquan Brisker, like a second-round pick. He's 74th out of 78 in safety ratings. Like they were supposed to be built around defense or a defensive coach. It's not working. But one of the other reasons, I'm just got to throw this out, that I took this game. It's a Matt Ryan game. I got my eye on you, Matt Ryan.
You're enjoying
Matt
this one.
Ryan, the broadcaster,
Yeah.
has a chance, I think, to be much like Matt Ryan, the player.
Ah.
Underrated, better than people give him credit for, and a connoisseur's favorite. He's starting to make some points here where I'm learning something from you, Matt Ryan.
Despite him double-crossing me in fantasy several seasons, I always liked him as a player. That's why I drafted him multiple times. And I do think he's done a good job. I thought his agent did him a bit of a disservice according to Matt Ryan, he reached out to the Jets and said, hey, Matt's available
Yeah.
if you want him, as did Carson Wentz representation, according to a Fox report. And the Jets are like, nah, we're good, because the Jets are fine. Don't look up. And then Matt Ryan had to kind of come out, and I don't know if it was who it was with, who the interview was with, but he said he named his agent, and it was like, that's what a great agent does. Like, he was doing due diligence for me. And I don't know, that's probably.
I don't believe Matt Ryan for a second. That's the agent taking the fall here. They're close. They all get how the
right,
business
but
is
why
run.
come out and even say anything?
Well,
he
I
must
mean,
have been asked directly by
Yeah, and he doesn't
some
like that
media
the Jets
member.
said no.
He was probably on a podcast or something. I don't know. He was in a tough spot.
They got him
Yeah.
in that 3-man booth. So if he does
Yeah.
eject or seat out,
That's right. We
You
were
know?
talking
Yeah.
about that. I think that was the plan maybe from CBS because I was like,
He said that.
oh, really?
He was keeping the door up. My agent is one of the best at what he does. Todd France is incredible, and he wouldn't be doing his job if he wasn't looking into certain situations. He said when he took the CBS job that he wasn't necessarily out.
Because let's be real. Tiki and Matt Ryan, I don't need Tiki. Tiki's just flying off the handle. He'll just say things, and I'm like, are you really just – it's just like it's he announces a game like it's morning drive time in New York, which just doesn't work because, you actually don't seem like you're following this team close enough to have that hot a take about their offensive line. He'll just say
Did
things
you see what happened
that are
with
a little
Tiki?
crazy.
Speaking of New York radio.
No.
He does a show with Evan Roberts on WFAN in New York. Joe Beningo, famous WFN host and Jets fanatic, goes on the show with Roberts and tells Tiki he couldn't know. I'm trying to remember what it was, but he said, I know you were at your game on Sunday. You don't know what we're talking about right now. You didn't watch the tape. And Tiki turns off his mic, turns to Roberts, and you can hear on Roberts' mic and goes, that's bullshit. and gets off and walks out of the studio,
Oh, I love it.
which is yet to happen on our show. No one's ever walked out of the studio.
Did that ever happen way back early in Culver?
Mark had one walkout. That's right.
Was it not for show?
Now we're talking how the sausage
No,
gets
there was
made.
one
Oh.
walkout.
It was a little
What?
both. It was early on.
I want more evidence of that.
It was in Culver.
I mean, I get it would be in Culver. We've only been here for 2 years.
There are
but I
people
don't
that
remember.
re-listen to the show.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
maybe we might have covered it up at the time.
I think we did.
I mean, I'm not saying it's totally impossible, but I just don't recall.
It might have been around like the O Sunday Night drop. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. There was one where I'm pretty sure you stormed out.
Really?
I'd like to think it was like a TD day time. It was early.
I mean,
on.
it had to
It
be a
was-
little bit for show.
And by the way, Broncos, you're in this game too, but hey, play better if you want us to talk about your team more deeply. The article that pointed out in Denver media this week that was like, Russ is actually earning his paycheck. I mean, let's come back to us. Russ is like replacement level right now, and you guys want to
he's
take
been fine.
exactly.
No,
but
I think he's been a little.
you
bit
want to
touch
take
over
a
that.
victory lap that he's been fine. He's like the 5th highest paid quarterback in the league. Yes, he's been fine. He's been an average.
He has
quarterback.
not been the problem, and I'll tell
No.
you what. Some would say this is madness. Others would say, God, only a real man could do such a thing here. But the Broncos, after giving up 70 points,
Oh wow! What's he got to do it?
are facing a Bears team that's not even a real team. They are not a professional football team at this point, and I don't say that to antagonize Bears fans because they know it too. They've been watching what's going on. It's absolute chaos. They can't unlock the offense. The defense doesn't even know where it's going. The DC is God knows where, not with the Bears anymore. And for that reason, the Denver Broncos on the road,
An 0-3 team?
an
On a
0-3
losing streak?
team, having had a 70 burger hung on their neck a week ago, will get W number 1, locking up the Denver Broncos.
I cannot
Sean
believe-
Payton, let's go, buddy boy.
Well, if they have, even 12 less missed tackles than the 24 they had a week ago, that would be fine. They were giving up a league-high 177 yards rushing
This
per
ain't the
game.
Dolphins' offense.
No, it's not. I mean, the two teams combined gave up 111 points last week. So this is, if nothing else, one of the more interesting locks I've ever
I
witnessed.
see
from you.
two teams that are in a really bad way, but I find the Bears to be completely untethered. They're like that movie where the guy in outer space he's tied to the rope and he's doing some repairs on the space station, and then like he gets hit by a moon rock or something and he
that's-
just floats away.
Yeah.
That's
death.
the Bears. The Broncos are just like, I don't know, they're passed out drunk within the space station, but they're still technically part of the universe.
They lost their first 2 games by a combined 3 points. That's fair.
I like Russell Wilson having a good game here because I think he's been playing
I don't hate this
quietly,
lock.
decently, to almost good, well, and we're gonna take this one. We're gonna take this one home, baby. What's the spread on it? Let me see.
3.
3. The Broncos.
Broncos laying 3. Okay, here we go. Let's fly.
Somehow the Broncos are favored on the road after giving up 70 points. I don't know.
I mean,
And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
How
Yeah,
bad
no,
are the
I mean,
Bears
no,
for that to be happening?
my
that's-
philosophy
yeah.
has been lock against teams more than lock for teams. So this is a good one based on that.
Oh no, am I up again? Oh,
You're up.
that was a tone-setting lock by the old Zeuser.
I mean, let's
If
try
you-
not to act like a hero that you're locking against the worst team in the league.
By the way, also your little zing yesterday about I give my own nicknames. Also, so you had
Well, it's factual.
no, you had Wes that gave Daddy Rich
Right.
based on a Pistons Bad Boys book. Danzis is from McAfee. So
I-
now we're up to 2.
I pointed that out.
But
I
we
literally
gave
said
we gave
Danzis
you
was the
credit
only
or
one
Wes
that wasn't.
credit for that.
That's
now
a
you're
Dan
just-
Hanzus
But
shout
that's
out.
2.
You're correcting a point that was
I'm
already
just saying,
stated.
your initial statement was that I come up with all my nicknames.
No, we didn't.
I said
40%. That, by my count, 40% outside sources.
But
Well, there-
that leaves you as the only person I've ever met that has given
Right.
themselves 5 nicknames or whatever it is,
Plus,
6 or 7
Think
nicknames.
of all the failed nicknames around the
Right.
office that haven't even made it to air yet.
I think,
Like
we,
what?
I think we had a
Didn't
point
make
to
the
some
cut.
degree. There's a pattern or a trend
Yeah.
or a compulsion.
Johnny Knuckles,
Yeah.
Johnny Knuckles.
Johnny Chuckles with
the host with the most, all the.
I've never heard that one either.
no Johnny Chuckles was
I-
maybe more of a character than a nickname.
I think it grinds your gears a little bit, Greg, that I have nicknames. It's not. They're coming from outside the building, inside the building. They're everywhere. That's all.
I
I got a nickname for you.
Okay. I want to hear it.
No, it's more me just sort of saying.
Come
like,
on, Saltine Cracker.
I'll come up with
All
a
right,
nickname.
let's go. Let's go.
All right, here we go.
F you.
On with it. I have to pick another game, which is ridiculous. I've already grabbed 2 early, so I'm going to grab a late. So it has to be Raiders at Chargers.
Thank you.
What's Jimmy G's situation? Where are we at on Jimmy G?
He's
TBD.
uncertain at this Thursday
A
taping.
Brian Hoyer game? Not on.
Could be an Aiden O'Connell
Yeah,
game.
why not Aiden O'Connell?
This is the type of game Greg likes to lock up.
Well,
Chargers 5.5 right now.
yeah.
Greg, I had a theory on that, though.
Well, I think that'll move outside the lock zone if Jimmy G doesn't play. And I'm not into the whole look into the mirror thing, but I think this is a good example of, like, you don't want to be doing that.
No, you could technically, but we will not. Like having watched now the Justin Herbert performance, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And yeah, he got away with that throw at the end, but he made so many throws. I had check marks next to every time Justin Herbert made a big time throw, whether it was a scramble or just in the pocket and letting it loose. And I counted 9 just absurd throws that
Love watching.
not
that, man.
many guys can make. And the Mike Williams thing sucks. He's out for the year with an ACL, and they really now need their first-round pick to step in and be a difference maker, which apparently behind the scenes that was not the plan. The plan was to bringing him along slowly, and maybe next year is kind of his year. And now they need.
I think it just was he wasn't ready.
Yeah, I don't
He
think
was
they
having
viewed him as like a plug and play right away.
He
guy.
was he had a bad camp. They were saying it from the beginning. He didn't have a great preseason.
Right.
And
So
now
let's see. It will be telling. Chargers fans holding their breath right now, because you want your first round pick to have an impact. They took him 21st overall, and now there's a big need at wide receiver. If he is not part of the game plan here, it's a red flag for sure. But Austin Eckler, maybe you get him back here, and I think they're going to be okay, especially if the Raiders don't have a quarterback. I think the Chargers have a chance here now to start stacking some wins. I like them a lot in this game. I do like them covering 5.5 too. I think this is going to be Chargers. They'll always let you down, and they came very close to blowing that game. Considering the level of play, Greg, from the quarterback so far this season, they are one rushed Vikings play and interception away, and turn into a touchdown to 0-3. Like it's only the Chargers. It's Chargers going to Charger, but maybe they can start building something here, some momentum starting against the
Well,
Raiders.
in typical Chargers fashion, though, they're like a couple weird plays from 3-0 too.
Right.
It's just like each game has come down to a totally insane ending that they found a way to blow 2 of them, and they won that last one. Sounds like they did get a nice pass rusher there with their second-round pick. Tui Pelotu was kind of dominant last week. He had 10 pressures. Like, that's a bigger game than we've seen out of Khalil Mack for a long time. So that's nice that you get another edge rusher. They really might have found something. He looks strong. J.C. Jackson spoke this week and was very confused why he was benched. He doesn't understand it. He said he's one of the best players on the team, that he's doing everything that's asked, that he's doing more, and that he was quite upset. So this defense, which looked like a mess the first couple weeks. I don't feel any better. I don't feel any better about this defense, and I'm not putting it past the Chargers to lose this game to Aiden
I don't want
O'Connell.
to let I'm not going to let J.C. Jackson off the hook because he hasn't lived up to a very big contract, but God, you got to communicate with your players.
Yes.
And I feel like there's issues going on behind the scenes.
His quote, man. His quote, like, I don't know. It's so pointing at Staley, and like, if anything, I thought Staley out of the gate was a coach that seemed of the new age where he would communicate well with players. He's a good communicator in general, and it's just like, what is going on with his team? I point to like the playoff game last year after Brandon Staley mismanaged Mike Williams in the final week of the season. Without Mike Williams, and that if you had him in the Jaguars playoff game, I don't think you lose that thing. I think you win. And it's like, this time it's not Staley's fault. You just lose Mike Williams again, who I thought completely helped Keenan Allen, who leads the league with 32 receptions, have this incredible season so far. And it's like arrow down a little bit on that continuing this way because of what you mentioned about like the rookie wide receiver in that situation. This is the kind of game where, like, I don't know if I trust the Chargers at all, but if you don't take care of business, at home, and at home means something different for the Chargers than it does for every other team except the Rams for the most part.
Is he going to do it? Is he going to do it
No,
2 weeks after he promised not to?
Well, I was tempted to, but I kind of
He was saying, we were talking
really
before the show, and he was like, maybe you got to lock up the Chargers. 2 weeks after he said
we have
he'd
Madison
never
behind the
win.
glass, and we tried to
last
tell her
week.
who our lock is. No, it was 2 weeks ago. It was like, tell her who our lock is, and I switched it 3 or 4 times. My lock is to come, but I'm not touching the Chargers.
This just popped up on my iPad. The Chandler Jones situation is not good. Raiders edge who was put into some type of involuntary hold because of apparent mental health issues. He came out, he got out of that and said that it was not something that he agreed to, and he's upset. I see a tweet from RG3. Let's all pray for Chandler Jones and his family. I don't know what's going on with him right now, but after everything I've seen, I do know he needs to feel like he's being heard in this moment. I reached out to him and encourage all of his NFL brothers to do the same. That's fine. It's a nice tweet. Jones writes back, "Bro, you washed up. RG such and such. Sit
What?
down. I'm still in the league. You Twitter fingers."
Ooh,
Why?
I mean,
there's
I like
something going on.
That's good. I'm still in the league. You Twitter fingers is pretty good.
Imagine RG3. He sees us like, oh.
I mean, if nothing else, that's a kind-spirited, kind-hearted message to someone that you're trying. But I think you're dealing with
He
someone
saw
that's
his
going
maybe
through
like, I don't know,
Right.
virtue signaling or not really.
He
caring.
said he was hospitalized against his will.
Right.
It's all.
I don't think we're gonna see.
We don't know
Chandler
the
Jones on
full
field
story, but
anytime
it's all troubling. He said he was tried to force to take meds and medication, so it's all very upsetting. And just on a football
They miss him.
side of it, we've seen it in Cleveland. We've seen it with Las Vegas now the last couple of years. One elite pass rusher does not make a pass rush.
Nope.
And the rest of they just now are just sending 2 guys at Crosby, and the rest of that group's not stepping up.
Right. Unless you're Aaron Donald.
But he had some guys with him.
But he's the guy that doesn't matter what you threw at him.
Right.
Actually, it was kind of good to see
But
old Aaron Donald a little bit.
Right, but even
I thought he had
that's
it.
sort of a
Right.
good example. They're like,
Yeah.
he can get it done. Crosby can get it done, but that's not enough. You still need other guys to
Well, they're
contribute.
also the whole rest of the defense has been a disappointment for roughly 340 years in a row.
I have developing news here.
Okay. Developing news. Just throw in that.
No, I have developing news, not breaking news.
Come on. I wouldn't have noticed the difference.
Well, I do.
This.
Yes. Because I'm Tom Buckner. The XFL and USFL said Thursday that the 2 spring football leagues plan to merge and begin play next year. The move is subject to customary regulatory approvals. Yeah.
I'll be checking out every one of those games.
I'm not trying to be mean about this, but
No.
sometimes you just got to say, nah, this isn't going to work. Like, what makes them think this is going to work?
I don't know. I feel like there have been 12 of these organizations or these leagues.
It's not for a lack of effort.
No.
And I understand what these people like Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, are going for. Like, football is the most popular sport in this country. Let's move something to the spring. Let's go against early season baseball and I guess the NBA playoffs, which is tricky too. And let's make a play. But it's just so much evidence that it's just not going to happen. And maybe it almost kind of happened. There's a great ESPN 30 for 30 documentary about the USFL and Donald Trump played a major role in that getting torn asunder.
Herschel Walker.
But that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the landscape is different now, and it's just interesting that instead of after I would imagine abysmal ratings for both these leagues,
They've been okay. Compared to other sports, they've been okay. I think that's why, if anything, the 2 going against each other
Greg,
was a
nobody
disaster.
loves football more than Greg. How many games have you watched?
I am not going to be watching spring professional football.
But that's what I mean. That's my point.
But I'm just saying, compared to a baseball game that they put on nationally, it'll beat that. Compared to some a tennis final or what. They were getting okay ratings, but making the money all work to get the stadiums and all that stuff.
You know what I do?
They need a developmental league. I don't know if combining them is going to get it done.
There's never been a better time ever than to, I'd say, relaunch with a limited amount of teams the World
Right.
League.
Here
Like,
we go.
I mean, when there was a World League, it was like you're putting teams in Germany and all over the place. It's like it's a stretch. We don't know if it's going to be popular. Right now, it's exploding all over the world.
We have
And-
the International Pathway Program, which is helping on that front, develop players elsewhere.
It's literally a different thing.
but
though.
an
Like,
actual league would be.
I mean, if you talk about the fact that you can't get people in like American cities to go watch a non-NFL product, I think that's a tough sell. I mean, that's probably lower prices. But if you dotted them around international sites where there's this
Right.
growing fervor for football,
There was some success on TV and some success with some of the teams. Like St. Louis, that place was rocking. They missed their professional football. They were packing it out. There was a few cities, so it's like, I don't know. I think professional football could use it, though, because I think these players need a chance to develop, and it's hard the way the NFL offseason.
And Greg, I
structure.
just did a quick little research on this.
Yeah.
So the average, I'll use MLB Sunday Night Baseball,
Right.
gets 1.5 million
Yeah.
eyeballs. The championship game for USFL drew 1.2 million.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of people, though.
That's the championship game is what I'm saying. So you have a whole season of games that are
Sure.
drawing maybe a quarter of that, or
I'm just
half of
saying,
that.
like in a world where there's
fifth
a
of that.
lot of sports on television, that goes over the bar of like.
But that's
yeah, we'll
one.
put that
That's
on.
the championship game, is what I'm
Right.
saying.
well, I mean,
The
there's
rest
no
are getting
argument
close
that it's
to 1
this
million.
roaring success. Half of those are probably
Yeah.
just on in like lonely bars.
All right, let's move on.
I don't care.
Thank you.
I'm there. there.
All right, go ahead.
Wait, who's up?
It's me, I believe.
Oh,
Yes.
my bad.
I'm going to go Tampa Bay at New Orleans. No Derek Carr. But I don't mind that. I'm kind of into Jameis Winston. I know he's a bit of a
please.
disaster last year.
Are we? This is what we're doing.
What?
We're into Jameis Winston.
I mean, we're at the back end of picking games. Like, I don't think it's a crazy thing.
No, I just like
There's other things going on here.
Oh.
what?
The New Orleans defense. 11 straight games allowing 20 or fewer points. I trust them against a Tampa Bay team that I do not trust on offense beyond Mike Evans. I think what happened, the last Baker Mayfield appearance we saw, I think is closer to the norm that we're going to get from him. I really struggled to find a lock this week, but then I saw this game and I was like, I'm doing something a little weird because these are two weird teams, but we're in New Orleans, one of the most like safe lock places to play. I think that New Orleans is an
In the old
irritated, agitated team right now, and I'm going to lock them up to take care of the Bucs. I don't trust the Bucs on any level right now. I
Wow.
also don't trust my actual lock, but that's
You've
okay.
locked up against Baker 2 weeks in a row. Now, last week I thought was a very strong lock.
Yeah. This is shaky.
This is the Saints with their backup quarterback.
I don't know if
Well, listen,
that's fine.
he
We have
stinks.
different. I don't trust Derek Carr to go do anything either. So I'm different than you on Derek Carr.
Derek Carr will give you like a kind of a professional, middling to higher bar. Like Jameis Winston's where he is for a reason at this point. So I think it's a significant downgrade at quarterback, and they just blew a 17-0 lead last week. I'd be worried about that.
I'd argue they had a 17-0 lead.
Okay,
Hey, now.
that's fair.
Hey,
and
now.
I will now, in your favor, Alvin Kamara's back.
Yep, you
Yes.
got Kamara, and they kind of need that. Taysom Hill was their leading rusher.
Taysom Hill's look good.
He has, but I don't love that. I don't want my leading rusher to be Taysom Hill.
No, but
so.
I like that they're not waiting around to involve him. I think there was like an issue of maybe Carr didn't want to come off the field, and they didn't wait around last week. And Taysom Hill's been very effective for them. They just can't score in the red zone. Carr, that injury, he held on to the ball, and for whatever reason, they haven't scored in the red zone. Like they have moved the ball a ton. And
until this weekend.
It's week versus week, kind of, with their offensive line versus the Bucs pass rush. So which weak point wins out here? Because the Saints' offensive line has really been a problem. And it's a lot of guys that have been there for a while and a lot of guys making a decent amount of money, Ramczyk, and they just paid Cesar Ruiz and McCoy, but they've been pretty bad. And
Ruiz is banged up.
Jameis in a revenge game against his old team where he's feeling feelings and –
Oh, he'll be throwing the pig.
Under pressure.
He'll be throwing that pig.
Makes me a little nervous, but I trust that the Saints – I'm with you that the Saints defense is the best group in this game.
Yeah, they're giving the Bucs 3 points. I think that's fair.
I don't trust this Bucs offense at all, and this is a tough matchup against the Saints defense is good.
The Saints were 10 game minutes away on Sunday from getting the treatment that the Browns defense is getting this week because they had been amazing until Jordan Love started going up and down the field on those last couple of drives. So, yeah, they've been
a
overall good.
A couple crazy PI calls that, to me, changed that game. Maybe the worst call of the season was that first long PI call on the Saints changed that game.
Yeah.
Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean both might be out. Davis might be returning this week. He's missed a couple weeks, but that's their 2 starting cornerbacks for the Buccaneers against pretty good wide receivers. For
Saints
the
have not allowed a 300-yard passer since week 9 of 2021. I mean, this defense has been consistent through the defense that gave Tom Brady a lot of trouble. I like this.
It's also the
organization. Tough fourth quarter for the Saints.
Yeah, it was also the organization that managed to lose that game somehow. There is something about this team.
Well,
that they just
there's plenty of room on the Broncos bandwagon right now.
I would just say, I will say this.
A place of valor.
This will impact Greg in our office because what I'm going to do next, I'm going to view as a charitable thing.
Okay.
Because I have the next pick too.
It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
I'm going to take the Vikings at Carolina. I could have taken Shook's Pittsburgh at Houston game, but I'm not going to do that after last week's flare-up.
It doesn't matter anyway. See, we're giving him a third game.
Wait, we have 2 loser go home matches.
Yeah. This is another loser goes home.
Wow. Yep. Okay.
I think the Vikings are just a far superior team to Carolina. I mean, they came back against the Eagles. They've been in these games. They're kind of getting the football gods slap in the face in these 1-score losses, 3 in a row after last year's absurdity. It's been their turnovers, though. They have the most in the league, the most fumbles, the worst turnover margin. Kirk Cousins also leads the league with 358 yards per game and 9 touchdowns. It's they've got weapons. You've still got the best wide receiver in football. I don't know what Carolina can really do to counter this. You're going to get Bryce Young back, it sounds like. He hasn't thrown for more than 160 yards in either of his 2 starts. I think they're a better team with Andy Dalton, but you're not going to play Andy Dalton. I get that. I think Frank Reich's in a tough spot. There aren't a lot of weapons around Bryce Young. It's if you're going to argue that the Vikings can be vulnerable here, it's what is it about Carolina that tells you that? They're banged up on defense right now. I just kind of like the idea of Minnesota course-correcting, getting this right. You know the last team that went to the playoffs after an 0-4 start? I remember this team because I'm a little older than you guys. But
it's probably only one, right?
The 1992 Chargers. It is the last and only team that ever did that. The Stan Humphries, Bobby Ross team. You guys would have been about maybe 12 or something.
13 for little Chargers. Stan Humphries, you're right.
0-4, and they wound up 11-5.
They went to the Super Bowl a couple years later with Junior Seau.
I wasn't tracking that team that closely while I was making my Sunday afternoon trips to Grandpa's house, but
I almost want to. Shoot, I almost want to jump out of my lock because I love the Vikings in this game.
Right? Wait a minute. I'm going to jump out of my lock. Forget the Saints. I'm taking the Vikings.
This is ridiculous.
No, it's not. I'm taking the Vikings. They're going to go into Carolina, and they're going to take care of business.
They don't even have the sound effect ready.
That's okay.
Come on. There it is.
I don't even know if they played it last time. That's okay.
There's something about this game that just gets under Greg's skin and grinds his gears.
What game?
This lock game. It's just something about
it. Oh, no, this is fun. I like it, actually, because I don't want the Saints to be cruising, though, Sunday after. I'm actually,
you know what?
It's self-interest.
Screw Sean Payton. Marc Sessler, you and I ride to Valhalla together.
Oh, yes, we will.
We're locking them together. Let's go, Purple.
When we did this last year, I think our record was 5-1 when we joined our locks.
I am not rooting for Sean Payton in any capacity.
No.
Is there room for one more?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Because I got a text from Westling Bros today.
Look at this.
Oh, this is good.
This did not come from him, but Mackie, Phil's son, picked the Vikings this week.
Oh, he won't be wrong. He won't be wrong.
He's the wisest of the bunch, I find.
Absolutely.
Although
the most intellectually seasoned.
Although he is in our kids' fantasy league and Return of the Mac, great fantasy name.
That is excellent.
By Mackie. Taking a pretty big L to both my kids the last 2 weeks.
I have to say.
Just saying.
Okay, that's a good point. Fair to point out.
Mackie takes a stray.
Why do you need to tell 200,000 people then?
Fair to point that out, and I will point out that
I love Mackie. He's great.
Nick has been pretty quiet now since that failed lock at Big D. I'm just going to leave it there. He's been quiet.
Not a lot of honking. This makes sense as a lock. Kirk Cousins, I think, on balance, is playing better this year than last year. I don't even think that's a hot take. My take all last year was this is sneaky, one of Kirk Cousins' worst seasons in Minnesota, except he's been balling out in the fourth quarter, and that does make up for it. But this year,
he's been good so
I think
far.
he's been really good and
This
consistent. This year.
Gotcha.
Same.
Same.
And they're by far the best group in this game, and now you've added a big-time weapon in Addison. I'm really impressed by Jordan Addison because he's nailing like the timing routes where it's anticipation, and you can tell Kirk Cousins trusts him. He's letting go of the ball before Addison even makes his breaks, and it's just like, wow, we got a nice number 2 here. We got a nice number 3. I mean, I'm with you guys. I am the world's second biggest Panthers fan though this week. I mean, I'm rooting against 3 locks. Knock all these guys out. This would be great. Let's go, Bryce
you're rooting
Young.
against this?
Yes.
I root for you when you
Oh,
lock.
please.
Yes,
please.
because I want you to be happy.
Yes, I'm sure you'll be rooting for Gino and the Patriots. That's what you'll be doing this week.
All right, up next, last pick for me. I will grab this an easy one. Cincinnati at Tennessee. It's tough. It's tough. We talked about it on Monday. It's tough watching Joe Burrow. This is just going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing, and I still – he had a quote that I really thought summed up nicely what I kind of thought where his headspace was and where the team was going into week 3, because they were 0-2, and they said, how you feeling? And, like, why did you choose to play? I don't know the exact framing of the question, but he's like, my leg, the way it feels right now, it's a lot better than 0-3 would have felt if I didn't play. So it's like that kind of, in a way, told me that if they were 2-0 instead of 0-2, I wonder if he's actually – they're doing the thing that they probably should be doing, which is just getting him out of the picture for a couple of weeks. But when you put yourself in that early hole in a very competitive division, and you have it's Super Bowl or bust kind of in Cincy, all these outside things come in, and there's Burrow limping around, quick, working out a shotgun the entire game, ball out of his hands, totally changing the way the offense is. Is going to get better this week, or is this just what it is now and the way it will be until, God, I don't want to say it, but until the calf goes out and he's forced out of the lineup? The good news is Tennessee, 2 out of 3 weeks, has been pitiful offensively. They are a defense that I would be frightened as a Bengals fan that I'm going on the road against that mean defensive line. And Joe Burrow, again, is going to have to get the ball out quickly. And Mike Vrabel knows what he's doing over there. So he's probably going to say, oh, I watched that Monday game. I know what they're going to try to do here. And I think what we're going to do here is whatever that under is. I don't rain make over here. But this is a 41.5 under. I think this is screaming out as like a 16-13 type game. Bengals, again, battle-tested, but also I think this is a tough spot. I think the Titans have a chance to get a big win for them with Cincinnati being as compromised as they are.
I'm with you that this feels like such a tight contest. I do like Tennessee has shown an absolute vulnerability on offense, and I don't think you need to be a top 5 defense to shut them down. They lack weapons. I think it's easy to get Tannehill off his spot in this situation behind an offensive line that it's really wanting. And, Trey Hendrickson has been one of the best free agent signings around of the last couple of years, dominant against the Rams. Logan Wilson, dominant. And I just think that the consistency that this defense has, they're going to have to ride it because I think their offense is going to be a tough watch. And you're right, the calf might go at some point, or we're just not going to get the Burrow that we're used to. But I do trust this defense to win tight games like this, to do what they did against the Rams. When you play an offensive line like Tennessee, I think they're in a bit of tough spot here.
I hate to say it, but doesn't it feel inevitable? Like if they continue to just send him out there,
isn't it hard? It's like the kind of injury it's hard to watch because he's like Theragunning it on the sideline. He's not moving well.
He said the calf should get better every week. I should be able to do more every week as long as I don't aggravated again.
Right.
Yeah, but
which he managed to avoid last week, and he managed to avoid, I guess, the first few weeks because this injury really was never gone, and that's what people were saying from the very beginning. I think it's very limiting. I'm with you, Dan. Like maybe he's better this week, but this is a much better opposition in terms of the defense that he's facing, the defensive coaching staff that he's facing, the defensive line, and this thing's gonna be ugly as hell. And Andre Dillard has been killing the Titans at left tackle for multiple games, and that's where Hendrickson's going to be lined up. It feels like every completion Ryan Tannehill has is like, wow, that was amazing. Like every completion is like him getting crushed and some receiver having to make a great catch like while he's well covered. That's not a way to run an offense. Like you hit 4 of those a game and everything else is just like so hard.
They were that way last year a lot too, and that's how Tannehill winds up out of the lineup.
Give me some more Mixon. I know the Titans are a good run defense, but Mixon has been looking a few years younger this year. I like the way Joe Mixon's running that ball, running that rock. Big game. This is sneaky, actually one of the biggest games of the week because it's a, in theory, Super Bowl contender that could really be put in a tough spot if they
Yes. I hope he's okay. I just feel like we are heading towards something unpleasant.
On the brink.
All right. One more game, Greg.
Oh, there is.
Pittsburgh at Houston.
I thought we were done. Pittsburgh at Houston. Fun one. It involves C.J. Stroud. And right now, C.J. Stroud is one of these stories of the 2023 season. I think that's fair to say.
Sure.
His pocket movement, his decision-making. He's one of those guys right now when you freeze the tape at the back of his drop, you think, okay, where is he going? And he makes surprising decisions where he'll anticipate and he'll throw it down the field. He'll make the tougher throw. Like he's not just taking checkdowns. He's looking at the coverage, and man, I think this stuff is really translatable. I think he's played as well in his first 3 games entering the league as anyone, since Herbert. Since Burrow had kind of a weird start, but Burrow too. I'm not trying to steal any points. Or Dan Orlovsky said it, and when he said it, it clicked into me that Stroud reminds him a lot of Burrow, and I think that's right. I think they win in similar sort of ways. They have a similar level of athleticism. That's enough.
Can we give just like a trigger warning,
What?
earmuffs to Panthers fans right now?
Well, I'm not. To me, Stroud looking great isn't anything about Bryce Young. I'm willing to just see what is going to happen with Bryce Young.
I'm just saying, you just put Stroud in the potential class of a guy or
of
Burrow, and it's like, ooh, well, you better be good, Bryce.
Right, and I'm not even putting like Stroud that he's gonna, but the stuff that he does to me is like quarterbacky stuff, like what I was talking about with Dak before, where it's like, man, that stuff translates. It's the type of quarterback I like. Geno, to me, is one of those types of quarterbacks. Phil Rivers was one of those types of quarterbacks where you can just see it, where he's doing some next-level stuff right away.
Yeah,
like he drop Geno into, like, here's some Hall of Famers or potential Hall of Famers now.
That's actually what I was trying to do. I was trying to bring back, like, I'm not just saying he's going to be a top 5 quarterback. I'm saying the type of quarterback he is. And then I brought a couple other ones I like, Rivers and Geno.
I just think it's so impressive when you're doing it, like, right away. He's also, like, you just want a rookie to not like create problems and mistakes. Like no interceptions through 121 pass attempts. The first quarterback to do that in his first 3 starts. Going back to Warren Moon. I mean, it's like, and Warren Moon hit the NFL is not a rookie. This is like it look like the way
like
he
he's
throws
so far
the ball.
ahead of Pickett. That's what it reminded me of. Like
he's
obviously he's ahead of
Pickett. Like I just think the way he throws the ball, you can just see it, and like people have very low expectations about this offense, but you can see their weapons and some of their wide receivers starting to play better. It sounds like they won't have Laramie Tunsil this week, but like Jalen Petre sounds like he'll play potentially. Like that's big on defense, and it's like I don't trust the Steelers' offense.
I do trust their defense though, and so don't come back to me, people, Steelers fans, if Stroud has 160 yards and a pick this week. Like they've been very lucky the types of pass rushers they've gone against. And he's been protected well enough. I don't know if that continues this week, where the Steelers could just dominate.
And you could hide a young quarterback like the Falcons did at the end of last year with Ritter, and it's like, oh, he's not turning the ball over, but he's not really doing anything either. Like C.J. Stroud, I think is like pushing the ball downfield. He's accurate as advertised, and yeah, his supporting cast isn't great, but it's all a bunch of like guys. And Nico Collins.
He's kind of doing
Tank
some.
Dell,
I like them.
Robert Woods.
I like Tank
got
Dell
a role here. Dalton Schultz is fine. Like these, Damian Pierce, although it's been a slow start. Like these are all guys that with a good quarterback, a productive quarterback, that offense will score points. And right now they have that. So you take that and then you say, oh, Will Anderson had another huge play last week, the blocked field goal. And I know we don't like to hand out any flowers to Houston's front office, but they might have nailed the most important first round of their draft since years.
Yeah, and they've been in a coaching abyss, and I think DeMeco Ryans it seems like he's a difference-making
so
coach.
far, so good.
Bobby Slowick has been a good offensive coordinator coming from the Shanahan world, so it's like they're organized. There's something happening here where it's like been years of hopelessness.
This is a much bigger test against the Steelers defense, especially for the Texans offense. So on the other side of the ball, it's not as big a test. I didn't come out of that Raiders game like all that more confident in Pickett and what's going on, but it's another chance for the Texans to kind of make themselves a real story. You want to really get people's attention? Go 2-2. That place will be wild because that is a great football town, and they're waiting for something. They now got a quarterback.
It's interesting watching the Texans, and it's like, oh, welcome back to the world of the living.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've just been kind of in the NFL for a couple of years, and now it's like, oh, they're in the NFL. They're like a real team that plays games that you want to watch sometimes.
It's all
progress.
One quarterback. It really does. It really does change everything.
Tell me about it. All right. That's it. We have a NFL Plus program. I mean, you got to be checking this out. We would not push this on you if we didn't believe in the product. Different stuff every week, different than what you're going to hear
I don't know
on this
what your
audio
excuse
show.
is if you have avoided this secondary show that we do.
Sharpen the knife. Go deeper. Go deeper into the flesh of the people that haven't checked it out yet.
Well, I think you're a lost individual.
That's what I'm saying. So check out Around the NFL on NFL Plus. New episode going up later Thursday. And also TNF recap Lions Packers. Gregg Rosenthal and a special guest who is
JP Acosta from SB Nation. One of the best young football minds out there.
Oh,
Smart
well
dude,
done.
Smart dude.
So you have one of the great young minds and an old gnarly wizard. And Gregg Rosenthal.
I mean, I'm not that old. We're getting there though.
You're old.
I mean, I'm 1 year older than you, I think.
The older was the word. All right, that's it. So plenty more stuff, and then we'll all be back together on the flagship program Sunday night. Till then, Dan Hanzus signing off for the old boss. Sizzler. Oh, the nicknames, they're all over the place.
That's a new
Eric Roberts, heed the call.
My ears been ringing since 1973 when I lost a bet to Bean Joe Green and he hauled off and gave me one of them big old whacks upside the head like he did them offensive linemen all those years. I'll tell you what, I saw stars for weeks afterward. Birds too, like them old Looney Tunes movies they made. Cuckoo, tweet, tweet, Polly want a cracker. And now I'm hungry. Who wants Popeyes? I'll buy 'em.